I had the set behind me.
Dog or a person?
Good morning, Art.
Hey, Dana.
Are you whistling?
It sounds like a dog.
Yeah, it's Art. He loves to whistle.
I'm whistling. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that, Art.
Mute
Yeah.
yourself, Art. Good morning.
Morning, everybody. Got 3 more minutes. We'll go ahead and get started here.
What the hell is that up there?
Hey, Art, if you're going to keep whistling, want to go ahead and mute yourself there?
I'm sorry.
You want to go ahead and mute yourself if you're going to keep whistling?
Am I supposed to introduce myself?
No, can you go ahead and mute yourself?
Oh, well, I'm a whistler.
Well, as long as you're not going to do it during the meeting, I guess.
I do that in my sleep too. Keeps me amused.
How do you know?
All right, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is our RCTC 9:30 meeting, our regular meeting, August 12th. And first off, we'll go and do a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. District 1. District 2. District 2.
Here.
District 3.
Here.
District 4.
Here.
District 5. Banning,
Here,
Beaumont,
Here.
Blythe. Blythe. Calamasa,
Here.
Canyon Lake. Canyon Lake.
I see Randy. Randy, you're on mute. You got to take mute off.
This is Blythe here.
Thank you. I
Can you
I
hear
did get
Blythe?
Blythe. Yes, I
Okay,
did.
thank you.
Thank you. Canyon Lake.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Cathedral City.
Here.
Coachella. Coachella. Corona. Corona, Desert Hot Springs,
Present.
Eastvale,
Present.
Hemet,
Present.
Indian Wells,
Present.
Indio,
Here.
Carupa Valley,
Here.
La Quinta,
Here.
Lake Elsinore,
Here.
Menifee,
Is here.
Moreno Valley, Moreno Valley, City of Marietta,
Here.
Norco,
Here.
Palm Desert,
Here.
Palm Springs,
Present.
Paris,
Here.
Rancho Mirage,
Here.
Riverside,
Here.
San Jacinto,
Here.
Temecula,
Here.
Goldemar,
Here.
Caltrans District 8.
Diane Morales in for Michael Beauchamp.
Thank you. I'm gonna quickly go back through.
Please do.
District 1. District 5,
Here.
Coachella. Corona, and we do have a quorum, Chair.
Oh, what about Moreno Valley?
Moreno Valley,
Yes, I'm here.
are you here?
Yes,
Thank you, sorry.
Gutierrez.
Is
Thank you very
Jason
much.
Scott, the member from Corona alternate, or I don't see Wes speak, but I do see Jason.
I don't believe he's
Not
here.
here as the alternate. I'm sorry. I'm just listening in.
Okay, very good. Just checking.
Don't put that pressure on me.
Never mind. All right. Do we have any public comments for the board that are items not on the agenda from any members of the public? If you're on Zoom, you would want to raise your hand. If you're on the phone, I believe it's *9. And so anyone, members of the public, I do believe we have quite a few in the room. If you need to make a comment on something not on the agenda, now's the time. Looking for a raised hand. And not seeing any. Do we have any other public comments that were sent in, Lisa?
No, sir.
No. All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and conclude the public comments. Do we have any additions or revisions for the agenda as presented?
No, sir.
All right. With that, we'll go on to the consent calendar. Items 5A through K. Does anyone have any items on there they wish to pull or have any questions on any of those items?
Move to approve, Paris.
Banning moves approval.
I have a motion by Paris, and Art will make that a second. Is that all right?
Yep.
All right, very good. Seconded by Banning. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. We'll go ahead and take a roll call on that.
Okay, District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Try again,
Canyon
Canyon Lake. Randy, I think you're unmuted. Can you try again? Oh, he just muted himself.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona, Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Carupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Aye.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes.
and Canyon Lake.
Aye.
Thank you. Item passes.
There we go. All right, with that, we'll go on to item 6, the presentation of the 2020-2045 Regional Transportation Plan and Strategies by SCAG.
Good morning. This is Philip Law. I'm the manager of mobility planning and management at SCAG. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. There is a presentation set of slides. I have a quick update on where we are with the Connect SoCal, the 2020 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Communities Strategy. So on May 7th, SCAG's Regional Council approved the Connect SoCal plan for the purpose of federal conformity. And since then, we did receive a letter from the Federal Highway Administration finding that Connect SoCal has demonstrated air quality conformity and meets all provisions of the Federal Clean Air Act. And this ensures that the transportation infrastructure projects in the plan will be eligible for federal funding. And it's critical because the region will be better positioned for pandemic recovery. Next slide, please. So while we have federal approval on the plan, last May, we did delay submission of Connect SoCal to the state by 120 days to gather additional input. We recently provided a 60-day progress report to the Regional Council, which I'm sharing with you. We have worked with local authorities to identify and restore locally approved entitlements as conveyed by local jurisdictions to SCAG to make sure we are accurately reflecting local plans. We also invited local jurisdiction stakeholders and partners to participate in our online survey so we could gather input on the short and long-term impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the region and how the pandemic may impact the Connect SoCal plan and strategies. And we also held a virtual town hall to learn how COVID-19 has impacted our local communities. And we heard from local jurisdiction stakeholders and partners about how Connect SoCal can be a tool for resilience and recovery across the region. Next slide, please. SCAG conducted multiple rounds of peer review and feedback on the data that forms the foundation for Connect SoCal, giving cities and counties several opportunities to comment on things like how growth ought to be distributed and adjusting accordingly. We received feedback from 12 jurisdictions, 7 asking for revisions and 5 requesting no revisions whatsoever, and staff is working to incorporate these changes. We have high confidence that the data not only can accurately reflect entitlements and their phasing, but will also fall within the general plan capacities at the neighborhood level as conveyed by the jurisdictions. Next slide, please. So what did we learn from our outreach on COVID-19 impacts? The top noted impacts to communities is lack of income to pay rent or mortgage and increased vehicle speeds on local roads. The top long-term concern about COVID-19 impact to the community was lack of government funding for services and programs. On average, 87% of the respondents noted that the Connect SoCal goals were either still important or more important in light of COVID-19. Next slide, please. So considering all the feedback and input we've received so far, staff estimates that adjustments to data will be minor and will not significantly impact the overall regional modeling results of the plan. Given the living nature of Connect SoCal and its existing focus on the need to develop regional resilience strategies targeting our most vulnerable communities, staff is not recommending any specific modifications or clarifications to Connect SoCal at this time. Staff recommends that policy changes and plan updates be considered through future board actions and our existing plan amendment process. This will be informed by 2 things: the upcoming Connect SoCal implementation plan and the 2024 Connect SoCal Emerging Issues Outlook, which will describe areas of additional analysis to be pursued to better understand the long-term impacts of the pandemic on future plan updates. Next slide, please. So why should we adopt the Sustainable Community Strategy now? We're confident in the strength of the plan, which is the product of rigorous collaboration and meticulous vetting. We've listened closely to stakeholder concerns, going above and beyond to conduct extra rounds of peer review and stakeholder outreach. Further delay in adopting threatens our economic recovery by making the region ineligible for state transportation funds. Connect SoCal prioritizes the attainment of federal and state performance requirements. It's already been approved by the federal agencies, and it fully achieves our state greenhouse gas reduction targets. The plan is a living document subject to amendment and updated every 4 years, and it's ready to evolve to address the needs of a constantly changing world. Next slide, please. So we're wrapping up on our stakeholder briefings this month. I mentioned we're developing a Connect SoCal implementation plan and the 2024 Connect SoCal Emerging Issues Outlook. And on September 3rd, we'll be taking Connect SoCal to the Regional Council for final approval. Next slide. And that concludes my update, and I'll be happy to take questions.
All right, do we have any questions by any of the committee members? Not seeing any questions. Thank you for the presentation. And unless there's any other questions on that, we'll go on to the next item. All right, with that, we'll go on to the update on the sales tax revenues and transportation funds.
Good morning, Chair Benoit and Commissioners. In June, the Commission approved the fiscal year 2021 budget with revenue projections revised in May for anticipated COVID-19 pandemic impacts. Today's presentation is an update on the Commission's two primary sales tax revenue sources, Measure A and Local Transportation Fund, or LTF. These sales tax revenues are received from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. Next slide, please. Measure A funds various programs in the county's 3 geographic areas. The revised Measure A revenue projections for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 were significantly reduced from the estimates earlier this year. The fiscal year 2020 revised projection is $178 million, and the amount of revenue through May is about $177 million. So we're really close to that target. April and May revenues were higher than we expected, and we expect to receive the June revenues in late August, and that will likely put us above the $178 million projection. The fiscal year 2021 projection is $160 million, which is 20% below fiscal year 2019 revenues. This amount takes us back to around the fiscal year 2014 and fiscal year 2015 levels. Next slide, please. Local Transportation Fund, or LTF revenues, fund transit operations, SB 821 bicycle and pedestrian projects, and planning and programming activities. Like Measure A, the revised LTF revenue projections for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 were significantly reduced from earlier estimates. April and May revenues were higher than expected also. June revenues are also expected in late August, pushing LTF revenues above the $91 million projection. The fiscal year 2021 projection is $82 million, which is 21% below fiscal year 2019 revenues. This amount takes us back to around fiscal year 2015. In regard to the fiscal year 2021 Measure A and LTF revenue projections, we just started the new fiscal year and will continue to monitor these revenues and determine any potential adjustments in future months. Next slide, please. With our sales tax consultants' assistance, we are analyzing a significant amount of data quarterly for economic activity and cash trends. As we look ahead, we will be interested in understanding how COVID-19 is impacting sales taxes, as well as payment extensions and deferrals granted to businesses in California. First, in regard to COVID-19, the first quarter data is under review and includes the start of stay-at-home orders in March, so it's difficult at this time to draw any conclusions about economic impacts. However, the first quarter reflects an increase in zero filers that can be attributed to the governor's executive order for filing extensions, as well as a delay in the manual processing of certain large taxpayer returns. I was I was surprised to find out that these returns are not filed electronically and thus require manual input by the CDTFA. Our sales tax consultant has made estimates for these zero filers in the Q1 2020 data based on Q1 2019 data. These estimates will be updated in future quarters as the returns are filed and processed. Second quarter data for April through June revenues is expected later this year. Analyzing that data will be increasingly difficult because we'll start to see COVID-19 economic impacts combined with payment extensions and deferrals. Secondly, we'll need to assess the impact of payment extensions available to businesses with a first quarter tax liability under $1 million. These businesses were able to delay filing until the end of July. So we should start to see sales tax receipts beginning in August for timely tax filers. Finally, we'll need to understand how payment deferrals are impacting sales tax cash flows. Payment deferrals allow small businesses to defer up to $50,000 of their tax liability for the first and second quarters until next year. But 12 equal monthly installments are due through July 31, 2021 for those who apply. It's important to note that the taxes due to RCTC for taxable sales are not waived. They are due from the businesses, but on a delayed basis. There is a risk of non-payment for businesses that fail as a result of this unprecedented period. Since we are in the process of year-end closing and the second quarter data won't be available until later, we will need to estimate with our consultants' help the amount of revenues related to these payment extensions and deferrals. Next slide, please. In the coming months and thereafter, as we navigate through this pandemic and economic crisis, we'll continue to monitor and analyze sales tax revenues. It may not be easy since we've encountered issues since fiscal year 2018 that have impacted our sales tax revenues and comparability. First, there were processing delays due to CDTFA's implementation of a new revenue system that affected fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019 results. Now in fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021, we have COVID-19 and filing delays. Additionally, the May revenues were much higher than anticipated because CDTFA changed its basis for the estimated and included some prepayments. We have been and will continue to engage our sales tax consultant to help us understand and analyze the sales tax data and identify any trends. The consultant will also continue to review and audit the data to ensure that RCTC receives its share of Measure A sales tax revenues. Finally, we will continue to share information with the Commission and its committees. Before I conclude, I'd like to emphasize that these are unprecedented times, with the virus not slowing down and continued shutdowns, as well as CDTFA complexities. Analyzing the data and identifying trends will be difficult in the next few months. It's unlikely that we'll be able to analyze the data in a meaningful way until later this year or possibly even early next calendar year. Next slide, please. This concludes my presentation and I welcome any comments or questions.
Very good, thank you. And can you email this presentation out to all of us too?
Lisa?
I'm assuming you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can. I'm sorry, I was muted.
It's all right. Any questions from the commissioners on any of that? Not seeing any hands raised. Oh, Supervisor Spiegel.
I wasn't quick enough to raise the computer hand. Teresa, has there been any discussion? It's really challenging that we have no say in the extension of the sales tax. The state does. Is the state going to be able to work through any challenges that we have on getting that payment if they allow the extension and payment plans, or are we just SOL?
I'm not sure we have any control in this, and given the last few years, that's, as I indicated, affecting comparability. You know, I hope that we are able to collect everything that belongs to us. I think there's a risk that some businesses may fail. And, you know, as I indicated, there are 0 filers because they're large permit holders, and their data is entered manually, which, I mean, that boggles my mind when I heard that. So I don't want to say I don't have faith in them. I'm trying to be positive, but it really makes our job hard, especially going into an audit period, trying to make an estimate for what belongs to us for fiscal year 2020. So we're going to do our best using prior data. You know, fortunately, it looks like so far our revised revenue projections are on the conservative side. Since, you know, with 11 months of revenues, we are at, or in the case of LTF, slightly above that target. I can only hope that for fiscal year 2021, it'll be the same. But when I got an explanation for the higher May revenues, and it was due to including some prepayment amounts in there, I'm sorry, I just kind of put my hands up.
I don't blame you. The tough situation that you're in representing us, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah, I know this is a very difficult time to be tracking these numbers, and thank you for your hard work. We're facing similar issues over at AQMD and also our local cities and other jurisdictions. It's tough to put a pulse on what is to be expected when things are changing so quickly. All right, with that, we'll go on to the next item, unless there's any other questions or comments. Not seeing any. All right, with that, we'll go on to item 8, the Coachella Valley Festival Special Events Train Platform Development Update.
Yeah, good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Sheldon Peterson, the RCTC Rail Manager, here to provide you an update on the Coachella Festival Special Events Train Platform Development Project. We've been calling this the Special Events Train for a while. However, personally, it feels more like a white-knuckled roller coaster with lots of ups and downs. And unfortunately, today's update is like a drop from Colossus. Next slide. As background, Amtrak successfully ran the Coachella Express Festival train back in 2008. And RCTC has been pursuing the establishment of the events train since 2016. The goal is to provide an environmentally friendly alternative to drive into these major events that draw 125,000 participants 3 weekends a year in untold congestion on the freeways, as many of you know. The concept is based on previous efforts, and through those discussions, we identified that the major barrier to operate this service was a lack of a separate track and safe boarding platform in Indio off the freight railroad's busy mainline tracks. So to address that hurdle, staff in coordination with LoSAN, the city of Indio, applied for and received a $5.9 million state rail assistance grant. This was also matched with $2.7 million in local Prop 1B funds for a total of $8.6 million available for the Indio platform project. Last year in July 2019, the Commission approved a series of agreements and resolutions needed to move the project forward. Next slide. So RCTC moved forward with a task order with our on-call engineering firm to begin the design and environmental process in close coordination with the railroad, LoSAN, and the city of Indio. At first, there were still some additional hurdles to overcome. We needed to resolve some scope issues as far as alternative track locations and the requirement to not add a new rail switch off the main line. We were able to address these issues, and a conceptual approach was agreed to with the local railroad and city staff. The proposed design can be seen on the graphic attached. The site location just south of the I-10 and north of the 111. Station track and temporary platform were designed as simple as possible, as cost-effective as possible to allow for a 10-car train to safely unload onto the platform and meet all ADA standards. proposed to be built adjacent to the City of Indio's existing parking lot and Greyhound bus stop off Indio Boulevard. The designs were advanced with our consultant to the 30% engineering level. Cost estimates for proposed construction and contingency costs of roughly $10.2 million. To date, approximately $375,000 has been spent on the design and early environmental efforts. Next slide. In order to move the station project forward, a project engineering agreement is needed with the railroad, which would be contingent on the larger access agreement to actually operate the service being in place. The railroad has noted that they have significant concerns over train capacity on this primary freight line and proposed a substantial access fee of $8 million to mitigate the impact to their service. Those costs, along with the station construction costs, make the special event service no longer financially viable at this time. LoSAN, CalSTA, and commission staff were in agreement to suspend efforts, and a notice was sent to the LoSAN Board of Directors regarding the service. Next slide. Fortunately, we are at a stopping point until we can figure out the future agreements for design and other coordination. We are working closely with LoSAN and CalSTA. The Indio platform is designed in such a way that it can be reinstated in the future, and we are following up with CalSTA and Caltrans to confirm the steps needed to replace the SRA funds award, the funding from the platform project to the next phase of the main Coachella Valley study, which we're diligently working on. Next slide. So in order to address the changes, we need to address some of the staff recommendations from the past, from the last commission approval. So we need to rescind the SRA agreement with CalSTA. We need to approve a resolution that rescinds the previous 2 resolutions related to the grant acceptance. And on the next slide, we'll also need to rescind the approval with the MOU with LoSAN, amend the short-range transit plan to remove the SRA grant funding, and then address the budget issues by approving a budget decrease to remove the grant funds from both the revenues and expenses. Next slide. So believe me, I wish I had better news to report on this project, but rest assured, we've done everything within our power to move the project forward, and it has been a long road so far. I believe Ann would also like to add a few comments before we go ahead and take some joint questions.
Sure, Ann.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. I know this is a really disappointing turn of events. We have been working diligently for a number of years trying to bring this to reality. We did include some information in the staff report and also in the conversation at the budget and implementation meeting. We're in a situation where our objectives to add additional rail service on Union Pacific's main freight line is a challenge. This is their main freight line coming in and out of Southern California, and their business model makes it very challenging to accept additional passenger rail or any passenger rail on that corridor. So we have been working diligently. I also would like to apologize that this information, LoSAN has the operating budget for this special event train had it in their annual budget. So when we had mutual conversations in June, LoSAN, RCTC staff, and California State Transportation Agency about the fact that we were going to be recommending to the RCTC board that we return this grant funding. LoSAN was almost ready to adopt their operating budget, and their staff needed to notify the LoSAN board that the money would be coming out of their budget. So we got out of sync in terms of communication with board members. So I apologize for that. We were dark in July, so we didn't have an opportunity to come to this body first to make that decision before LoSAN took the money out of their operating budget. So I apologize for that confusion. Rest assured, we continue to work diligently on the permanent rail service. effort. That still is underway, but we do regret, we think we're at an impasse here with the special event train, and it's best to return the public funds to the State Transportation Agency. So we're happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you for that update. And we understand why it got out of sync, and it's too bad that that happened, but it's understandable, especially being dark last month. Supervisor Hewitt?
Yeah, I just had a question for Sheldon. On that 300,000 plus that's already been spent on design or whatever for the platform and such out there. Should this come about, you know, obviously we're hoping that we'll have these few events in the future after COVID and such. And should we get maybe some movement from UP or whatever else it takes, is that 350 or whatever, that money, do we have to start all over again, or has that already been used and we can use that? In other words, do we get something out of that? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I feel we absolutely got something out of it. We came up with a design and the initial engineering work for something that actually will work. The railroad was comfortable with where the switch design was, with the track locations, and with the platform design. So I think we're at a really good starting point. We didn't really lose anything, and I think we clarified what it will really take to actually make it happen in the future. So I think it was money well spent, and we can just build on it in the future.
Thanks.
Very good. Supervisor Spiegel?
That was my first question. My second question is, you know, I know we've been working with UP and it's a challenge because they run a very hefty freight business. That's what they do. But being only 3 weekends a month, 3 weekends period out of 26, there's no way to work around a schedule to allow for those trains during only those 3 weekends?
No.
Sheldon, I'll take that one. There is a way to do it, but it would have involved us needing to pay a very significant access fee to allow those trains to run. And from a staff perspective, paying an access fee for special event trains probably wasn't the best expenditure of public funds. And I do think the business model they are developing, which is if passenger rail pays access fees, I think that can be a good business model. I just don't know that it was the right thing to do for special event trains. It would have been millions of dollars of public funds to pay for access for those trains.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gregory?
Hi, well, I just wanted, this is a great disappointment. There was some discussion on this in committee, and there was an article in the newspaper, the Desert Sun out in the Coachella Valley, that seemed to kind of throw around blame. Didn't really, I think at the time they just didn't have all of the information. And in committee is the first time I had heard about the access fee. So without that explanation, it's understandable that there were many concerned that it wasn't a matter of the project being necessary. It was more of a matter of resolve. I think everyone that's ever been involved with the railroads know that they are difficult to deal with, and that's a continuing issue. So I do appreciate the greater explanation about the access fee, because I think anyone looking at that access fee for just the short amount of time or the few trips that would be used, it doesn't make sense to, and it's not a good use of public funds. But it of course is a great disappointment. And one of the big worries is, besides the continuing issues with the events, is that how this would reflect on the daily rail service. So I do also appreciate staff's work to try to continue that and not let this be an impediment to that. And when we get to that point, I know hopefully we're going to be good about communicating. I think even for this project, if I had, and I don't want to throw fault at anyone, but I think that I would have liked to see some type of public appeal on this before we decided to pull it back. This might not have been the time for that with COVID and everything and the canceled events. I can agree that that might have been difficult, but I do think that the rail service is important. I think RCTC's done a great job in the rail service that we have, and continue to expand. And my hopes is this does not become an impediment to rail service through the pass and out to the Coachella Valley. And that eventually, if the need again shows itself, as has been pointed out, that this project somehow is revived. So, but thank you for the work that you did and for the much clearer explanation.
Very good. Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I don't want to duplicate what Commissioner Gregory just said. I agree with him completely. I just think we ought to take this opportunity to thank staff and Sheldon and Ann and everyone for the hard work that they put into this. And also to the city of Indio, who was going to be the guinea pig, if you will. They really moved as quickly as they could. They were extremely helpful. And there's a lot of goodwill here. And obviously this is very disappointing, but it has to be, and I would move adoption of the staff report.
Very good. I have a motion and who seconded? I didn't see.
Gregory.
Gregory, very good. Commissioner Bailey?
Well, before we move forward, India raised their hand.
Yep, I've got a couple of hands raised. We'll get to you so you can introduce your daughter there too.
Yeah, I just echo those comments. Great attempt by staff. 100% of the shots you don't take, you miss, and we took a shot at it. Just a quick question though, in terms of was there any communication or offer or ask to the festival owners, organizers to pay if the fee was truly the death nail in this project? Were the organizers offered a chance to pay the access fee? I mean, they could pass that on as a surcharge to the festival goers. I'm sure festival goers would pay extra so they don't have to drive out there and park and all that craziness.
Sheldon, I'll take that one. So we did not do so. The cost of the train already was just to run the train. The operating cost would have resulted in some pretty high ticket prices to pay. Passengers who chose to take the train would have already paid a significant premium to take the train. Just with the basic operating costs of the train to recoup the operations, to add a multi-million-dollar access fee to that cost, it would have priced people out of taking the train. It would have been so expensive to pass that cost on. People wouldn't have taken the train because it would have been so expensive. So we did not offer that as an option to Golden Voice or Valley Music Travel.
I heard Elon Musk is going to bore a hole anyway, so it'll be moot point. Thank you for that.
And that, if I could also add too, one of the most important aspects of this conversation was to try to craft a service that would translate into something that was affordable for people who would be using the train. That it needed to be able to pencil out that someone would say, okay, I'm willing to pay that much money to be able to take the train. That was always a goal of this effort.
Commissioner Furman?
Good morning. I'm playing daddy. Paris woke up. So
good morning, Paris.
Say good morning. Thank you for the hard work, and of course it's disappointing to get this news, but in these times things are happening at a fast pace, and we have to learn how to move forward, and I just hope in the future when this little one is old enough that we would still get some of those services out here, because the Coachella Valley is growing. Our festivals are growing. our neighboring cities are growing with their own festivals and things going on, and I'm very optimistic that we will respond from COVID, and we will get back to some sort of normalcy that we will get. And I just hope in the future that this will come back to the table, and the city of Indio is willing to work as hard and diligently as we can to make this happen in the future. So thanks staff, and thank everyone for the hard work. I know this effort started before I came to this commission, and hopefully before I exit, a train will be pulling into Indio Boulevard. So thank you, that's it. And I unfortunately, I do support the recommendation by staff.
Thank you. Some great comments there. Supervisor Harnick? I'm sorry, my apologies. Commissioner Harnick?
Okay, quick question. When we talk about the multi-million, do we have, what is that? Do we have a kind of a number?
So it would have been that instead of building the platform, we would have taken almost that $8 million and paid it as an access fee instead.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Middleton?
Thank you, and I want to agree with all of the comments that have been made by my colleagues, particularly colleagues here in the Coachella Valley. But one of the issues that emerged out of these discussions is a recommendation that there be a third track built. And I would like to ask Ann to remind us of what the cost of building a third track from Colton to the Coachella Valley would be. I think we need to have a very serious discussion regarding regular rail service to the Coachella Valley, but we need to be fully cognizant of what that cost is. And the $6 to $8 million that we were talking about for this particular project will not build even a mile of the 70 miles of track that we need to build.
Okay. In parallel with this effort, we have the environmental document, the Tier 1 environmental document ongoing for the regular service, 2 round trips a day between Los Angeles and Indio. What we have developed through modeling and evaluation is that in order to have additional rail service from LA to Indio, we will need to triple track. Right now there's 2 tracks. We will need to add a 3rd track from Colton to Indio. And the cost of that is somewhere in the $12 to $16 million a mile. And once we add stations and other costs in, it will likely be $1 billion or so. Don't quote me on that, it's a ballpark, but roughly $1 billion to triple track. And so the permanent rail service to the desert will be a significant investment, and it's certainly not one that we have resources to be able to accomplish. It is important to complete that Tier 1 environmental document and move to the 2nd tier. There is significant interest at the state level to be a funding partner for this project. So it is $1 billion at least to bring rail service to the desert. And so it will be a serious undertaking, but we are underway with that effort as well. And we hope to be able to come back to you later this fall with an update on where we are with that.
Very good. Commissioner Vinton?
Thank you, Chair. And just so I understand correctly, you compared that use fee of $8 million to the cost of the platform. Would that be annual or that's total?
What, Sheldon, do you know? I think it was total. Sheldon, you know the details?
Yeah, it was roughly $8 million to be able to run the service for 3 consecutive years. So it wasn't an annual fee, but it gave us access for a short period of time of 3 years. So
So we would anticipate that it would continue on a 3-year basis if we did that.
Right, right. It doesn't give us permanent service or long-term service, just 3 years for $8 million.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? I do believe we have a motion and a second on this already to go ahead and move forward with staff's recommendation. Unless anyone else has a question or comment, we'll go ahead and take a roll call on that.
District 1? District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
Banning?
Yes.
Beaumont?
Yes.
Blythe?
Yes.
Calamasa?
Yes.
Canyon Lake?
Aye.
Cathedral City?
Yes.
Coachella? Corona? Desert Hot Springs?
Aye.
Eastvale? Eastvale?
Aye.
Hemet?
Can you hear? Yeah.
Yes.
Indian Wells?
Yes.
Indio?
Aye.
Harupa Valley?
Yes.
La Quinta?
Yes.
Lake Elsinore?
Aye.
Menifee?
Aye.
Moreno Valley?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
Norco? City of
Yes.
Norco? Thank you.
Yes.
Palm Desert?
Yes.
Palm Springs?
Aye.
Paris?
Yes.
Rancho Mirage?
Yes.
Riverside?
Yes. Yes, sorry.
San Jacinto?
Yes.
Temecula? Temecula? Wildemar?
Yes,
That item passes.
very good. Sorry to see that come to the end of the line there, but hopefully we can pick up later and move forward someday with full service out there.
End of the line?
Thank you for picking up on that, Jack.
Yeah, I give you a clap.
All right. If we can't all keep laughing, we'll start crying, right? It is 2020. So with that, we'll go on to item number 9, the award of the State Route 91 Corridor Operations Project Construction Agreement.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is David Thomas, Toll Project Manager. I hope you are all well. This item is to present the award of the construction contract for the 91 Corridor Operations Project, also called the 91 COP. Some of this may sound familiar to you because 3 months ago I presented the Construction Management Award. Here we are in August presenting the award of the construction contract. Next slide. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, is the screen not showing?
It's only showing the presentation, just the first slide.
Okay, let me try this again. Sorry about that. Can you see the second slide now?
No, you're sharing your first screen, you share your second screen, or just turn it off presentation mode and just click through.
Okay.
Is it showing?
Sort of.
Okay.
Close enough.
Just
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I'm getting an error every time I'm trying to share my screen as if I have a virus. So I'm having to close lots of errors. So I apologize for that.
I think you may have to take it out of protected view.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ed. All right, go ahead. Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right, so just a review of the project scope. This project adds a lane on westbound 91 between the Green River Road on-ramp in Corona to State Route 241. That is accomplished through some outside widening, retaining walls, one bridge widening. The project also includes a replacement of overhead signs and some new high mast lighting. Next slide, please. Just some background. In March of 2017, that's when we opened the 91 Corridor Improvement Project. After opening that project, we did note some hot spots along the corridor that we continued to monitor and look to address with various improvements. We did some restriping, some sign modifications. One particular hotspot was at this location, westbound 91 at Green River Road. So staff started looking at options to address this particular area. From December of 2017 to April 2018, staff developed options to address this particular hotspot. And in May of 2018, we came to the commission with a presentation for this project that you're awarding today, which is the construction of the 91 COP. In December of 2018, the commission authorized the construction of this construction phase for this project. And then just 3 months ago, in May of 2020, the commission authorized award of the construction management services agreement. Next slide. So reviewing the bid process that we went through, typical of our construction process for advertisement. The invitation for bids was released on May 21. It was advertised in the Press Enterprise, posted on Planet Bid's website. Electronic mailing messages were sent out to vendors. 105 firms downloaded the bids. 28 of those are in Riverside County. We did hold a video conference for a pre-bid meeting on May 28th. And then also through a video conference, publicly open the bids on July 2, 2020. Next slide. So the basis for award for a public works contract is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, as defined by the Commission's procurement policy and state law. The bid analysis, which is attached as attachment 3, shows the bid amounts of the 3 lowest apparent bidders, the total price per item and percent variation from the engineer's estimate for each bid item. The bid price submitted by OHL USA was approximately 27% lower than the engineer's estimate. Although OHL's bid is lower than the engineer's estimate, an analysis of the bids is still required and was completed by staff. After analyzing the 11 bids, which you can see on the screen, staff concluded that OHL USA is the lowest responsible bidder, submitting a responsive bid in the amount of $18,886,963. Staff did receive a bid protest letter on July 20, 2020, protesting the bid submitted by OHL. The executive director, in consultation with staff, legal counsel, and the commission's DVE consultant, determined that the protest had merit in part and that OHL USA did not meet the DVE goal. As a result, staff completed a DVE good faith effort analysis and also requested Caltrans to perform a DVE good faith efforts review. Staff and Caltrans both determined that OHL USA did demonstrate adequate good faith effort to meet the contract goal. Next slide. I want to review what's being requested for approval for the total budget. There's a breakdown shown on the screen. So we have the bid amount, which is just under 19 million. A contingency amount, which is our typical 10%, 1.8 million. That includes COSI, FSP, and also unknowns that may occur during construction. And then the supplemental work item. Supplemental work is that will need to be done during construction, but is not quantifiable at the time of construction advertisement. Two common supplemental items of work are maintaining existing traffic and the price index fluctuation of asphalt pavement. You can see the estimate there for $406,000. Also, we have incentive payments in this particular contract, a little bit unusual. The bid documents included an incentive clause that would pay the contractor up to 2 early completion bonuses tied to 2 project milestones. The first bonus would be paid if the contractor reduces stage 2, which is considered the most impactful to the traveling public. The project includes 2 major stages of construction. Stage 1 has a longer duration, which constructs retaining walls, bridge widening, and earthwork offline away from the traveling public. However, stage 2 reduces lane widths and shoulders and installs K-rail on the edge of traffic in order to perform the pavement widening. The second bonus would be paid if the contractor reduces the overall construction duration from notice to proceed to open to traffic. These 2 early completion bonuses, including the daily value of the incentive disincentive and the maximum bonus achievable, are shown in the table on the screen. Each bonus can be achieved independently for a combined maximum bonus payment of $472,500. So those are the elements that comprise the total budget being requested for this contract. Next slide, please. I apologize for the heading. It should read commission action. These are the actions that are being sought today. Award agreement number 20-31-069 to OHL USA to construct the SR91 COP in the amount of $18,886,963, plus a contingency amount of $1,888,696. Supplemental work in the amount of $406,900 and incentive payment in the amount of $472,500 for a total not to exceed $21,655,059. Second action, to authorize the chair or executive director pursuant to legal counsel review to finalize and execute the agreement on behalf of the commission. And finally, authorize the executive director or designee to approve contingency work, supplemental work, and incentive payments as may be required for the 91 COP. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Do I have any commissioner questions? I think I see Karen Spiegel's hands raised. Go ahead.
Yes. David, my first question is that it's 8 million less than the engineer's estimate. Did we go through and see why there was such a large difference between some of those smaller bids that are almost 2/3 of a full bid?
Yes, we did, and that's actually part of the attachment 3 that's attached to this, is we highlighted in that document where we saw differentiation between engineers' estimate. We also compared with the next 2 lowest bidders. So we compared all the 3 lowest bidders, and we didn't really see anything that jumped out at us. I mean, if you were to look at that, you could kind of see that even compared to the other bidders, their bid amounts vary quite a bit between some of the major items that are highlighted, but nothing really stood out to us as being unusual or of concern.
Is there normally that big of a differential between bids?
Well, actually, the bids came very close. If you want to go back to slide 5,
Right. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the agenda too. So, yeah, I mean, there's only one bid that went over the engineer's estimate, which is of the 11 you gave us. How many total did we get in?
We had 11 bids.
Okay, okay, 11 of the 105 firms that downloaded, okay. Wow. And where is OHL from?
Not sure where they're based out of, to be honest. I know they're working locally. They have the 405 project for OCTA and Caltrans. That's the big multi-billion-dollar project going on. So they do have a local presence, not too far from this project location.
And did you sit down or have any discussion with City of Corona about any of this? I know I feel bad that Wes isn't here today, but.
I did talk with Tom Coper and let him know kind of the status of things a couple of weeks back.
Okay. Because they'll have to deal with some of the, construction traffic again. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Benton?
Thank you, David, for the presentation. Real quick, do we have liquidated damages clause at the same amount as the incentive for the early completion?
Yes, we do, for the same amount. That is correct.
Excellent, thank you. And then just of note on this agenda item and item 8, I do not have those attachments. The attachments are not in my agenda. So if I could get those, I would appreciate it. Thank you, David.
Will do. Thank you.
Ann, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I did. In response to a couple of Commissioner Spiegel's questions, we have been seeing a great deal of competition lately. So to have 11 bids on a project like this, it's very significant. We saw a lot of competition on the Railroad Canyon interchange. We saw significant savings there. Same thing with the Placentia 215. So right now we're in a pretty competitive environment. And so the number of bids drives competition, which usually means lower bid results. So in addition to looking at the differential between our engineer's estimate and the low bid, what we also look at in terms of are there any red flags? Are the bidders all clustered together? Generally, if the bids are really tight, that means that we've got a good bid. If we've got that many contractors with bids that are in some cases separated by just minor amounts. So at this point, we think there's a lot of competition driving some of the bid prices down. And with respect to OHL, David mentioned they're in Orange County. I think they're based out of Orange County, but also OHL was the contractor on the Magnolia grade separation, the County of Riverside Magnolia grade separation that was just completed there right on the border in the unincorporated area, Home Gardens, in between Riverside and Corona. So OHL had that big contract as well.
And I failed to ask, I'm looking in the packet and I'm not seeing the date of completion. What's the anticipated date of completion?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I failed to say we expect to start construction next month, or actually in October, and it's about a 12-month contract. So we expect to be complete by the end of 2021.
Great.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Indian Wells, a second by Supervisor Spiegel. Any other questions or comments? And before we do that, we need to take any public comment. If you're a member of the public and wish to speak on this item, I ask you to click the raise hand button. Not seeing anybody, or if you can just unmute and go ahead and start if you have a public comment on this. Going once, going twice. All right. I guess we'll go ahead and go into the vote.
District 1? District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4? District 4? District 5?
Yes.
Banning?
Yes.
Beaumont?
Yes.
Blythe?
Yes.
Calamasa?
Yes.
Canyon Lake? Canyon Lake? Cathedral City?
Yes.
Coachella? Corona? Desert Hot Springs?
Aye.
Eastvale?
Aye.
Hemet?
Yes.
Indian Wells?
Yes.
Indio?
Aye.
Karupa Valley?
Yes.
La Quinta?
Yes.
Lake Elsinore?
Aye.
Menifee?
Aye.
Marina Valley?
Yes.
Marietta?
Aye.
Norco?
Yes.
Palm Desert?
Yes.
Palm Springs?
Aye.
Paris?
Yes.
Rancho Mirage?
Yes.
Riverside?
Yes.
San Jacinto?
Yes.
Temecula? Wildemar?
Yes, and can you go back to Canyon Lake? I believe Randy's available
Aye.
now.
Canyon Lake?
Aye.
Thank you. That item passes.
Very good. That brings us to the end of our calendared items. There were no items pulled from the agenda. Do we have any commissioner comments? Not seeing anyone jumping up there. I have one comment I'd like to make, and I know up in San Bernardino, they're looking, working with Elon Musk to bore a tunnel from Rancho Cucamonga down to the airport. And I was wondering, what would just a basic estimate look like, or cost estimate? I know there was talk of a tunnel back in the day from the Corona area, the 91 out in Orange County. I know that fell apart due to the costs. And what would a back of the napkin, just a report on what that feasibility would be with a single lane through the boring company? Would that be something we could look at, or some idea that we can maybe just sort of get a basic number on?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if it's a single lane, which direction is it going to go?
Well, we can maybe work that where it works one way in the morning, one way in the afternoon.
Ah,
But I'm also understanding that the cost per mile is pretty inexpensive. So maybe we could do 2 tunnels and one in each direction. But I think it's something worth looking into. Watching our folks in San Bernardino looking at that, and they seem to be getting some very good estimate prices, and with some great opportunity, way less than they would expect any other tunneling operation to be. So I think it's worth at least getting a quick estimate on, and maybe rehashing that project from many years ago.
well, maybe we can go under the railroad tracks and have our own tunnel to Indio.
I believe Mayor Bailey mentioned something about that in his comments earlier. All right, Supervisor Hewitt, I see your hand raised.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, just to tag on to it, what Ben just said. Actually, the state water project, or the tunnels, that we're talking about going around the Delta, they're already talking to Elon too. So he's got, he's made space travel a heck of a lot more affordable, and maybe he's making boring holes and not having to worry about so much property acquisition or whatever on top. So it has all kinds of possibilities. But yeah, they're looking at that too on the Delta tunnels.
Very good. All right, and with that, Ann Mayer, do you have any comments?
I do. Thank you very much. Commissioners, as I sent an email out to all commissioners last week, the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Agency Executive Committee has requested RCTC's consideration of a proposal to have RCTC become the managing agency for RCA activities. This morning at the RCTC Executive Committee meeting, our executive committee considered that request to explore the option, and I've been authorized to conduct up to a 60-day due diligence period to evaluate from a RCTC perspective, what the assumption of those responsibilities might look like, what concerns RCTC might have, how we might in fact put something like that into place. So for those of you in the Coachella Valley, this would be very similar to how CVAG and the Coachella Valley Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan are implemented. So that exploration has been authorized by the executive committee. So I'll be working with the interim executive director, Honey Burness at RCA, and legal counsel to explore that as an option. They're included in that would be not only looking at what the impact would be organizationally, financially, but also conversations with stakeholders, member agencies, as well as developers and resource agencies, so that we could fully understand the implications of doing something of this nature. So stay tuned. We'll be conducting that, and we'll be coming back to the executive committee and this full commission for further conversation. So thank you.
Very good. Any other commissioner comments? If not, we'll go ahead and move into closed session.
Mr. Chair, just one quick comment. Just like to wish my colleague from Hemet happy birthday. Yesterday was her birthday.
Very good.
Thank you very much. I
Happy
had a
birthday.
council meeting, so it was, celebrated at city council.
Well, with 2020, that's probably the best birthday party you're going to get. All right. Any other comments, commissioner comments? If not, we'll go ahead and go into closed session. And Lisa, we're going to do that in here, or how are we going to manage that? Oh, you're muted.
We'll go ahead and turn off the live streaming. We'll attempt to move everyone over into a Zoom room. If that does not work, it did not work last time. We had some people who weren't moved over. Then we'll go ahead and lock down the meeting and make sure we're good and we only have the commissioners present. So if everyone wants to give me just a couple of seconds to get that done, that would be great.
All right, everyone just stay tuned for a second here. We're going to move to a separate room.